thanks very much. I mean, this is the first inside the industry alumni special, and the first host here at Caffe Isola. I didn't have to ask the pronunciation because there's a lot of other versions going around. Isola, it's Isola, just in case you need to use that. So the idea behind these events is essentially just to kind of provide a bit more of an insight into the music industry. I know we've got a mixture of current students, potential future students, and also ex-students, and also other people that are just interested in learning a little bit more about the music industry. So the kind of idea really is to talk to these four fine guests that we have tonight about their roles in the music industry, how they got there, and other kind of opportunities that they've taken in order to kind of reach full-time employment in the music industry, which I think is kind of a goal for everyone who studies music. So we're going to start off first of all by having a little say hello to our guests and let them introduce themselves, and maybe give them a little bit of a job title, role that you are currently in. So first of all, Mr. James Pinfield-Wells.
One. Hi.
He doesn't work with mics, by the way.
I work exclusively with mics. Currently an assistant sound engineer in Moloko. In-house at the pool. Yeah.
So Moloko is a collection of recording studios.
Correct.
That's situated globally.
Correct.
Now, as you can see, we're going to be drawing this information out from James. So tell us a little bit more about the kind of, the studio that you currently work in, called The Pool.
It's maybe Moloko's flagship tracking studio, would you say?
Probably one of them, yeah.
Cool. It's the flagship recording studio. It's sick because a lot of my favourite records were made there. The Maccabees' first record was made there, and that record, we went to college together. So me and Henri, and Fifi, we loved Maccabees growing up. So it's really cool to then go and work in the studio where they made the records. But I'm essentially, I'm just in-house there. I'm there more, I think, than I am in my home.
Which is great for a job.
Yeah.
It's good for a job.
Yeah.
So you're doing one. So your job is essentially to assist the producers and acts that come into the studio?
Yeah, I mean, I guess when our artist bands come in, it's kind of wild to assume that everyone just knows how every desk, every room is wired and how every patch bay looks. So my job is to just be there. So when producers come in or they bring their engineers, I'm just sort of the guy when they're like, can we patch this mic into this compressor? And then, I do that because it's kind of crazy to just assume that everyone knows how to do that in every room,
Very technical then, there's a lot of technical elements to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not I guess I'm not like a tech, I won't be fixing gear, but yeah, I guess if someone comes in and says, can we route this guitar through this amp and then split it to this spring reverb on the, I'm kind of the guy that has to just sort of figure that out on the fly. Because there's a lot of requests that sometimes I guess a producer will come in and they'll want to use their workflow in our room, and you kind of just have to figure out how to adapt your room to their workflow.
Yeah, because I mean, again, I know even just looking around, for people that I do know, there's quite a few people in here that would love to work in studios or currently work in studios. So we've got obviously a couple of representatives of Moloko, which is what James is referring to. So we'll be on to Lottie Field, who is the bookings manager.
Yeah, so I started as bookings assistant, but got promoted to bookings manager last year, about a year ago. So yeah, it's good.
So what's your kind of day-to-day role look like?
Lots of emails, lots of phone calls, speaking to clients, so artists, managers, labels, producers, anyone, really anyone at all.
So you're kind of currently, as bookings manager, you are responsible for assigning artists, producers to specific studios.
Yeah, so sometimes like some of our regular clients will know the studios that they want to use, so that's kind of fairly straightforward. But then people that haven't used us before, or I will kind of help to suggest. So Moloko is like a big roster of studios for those of you that haven't heard of us. So there's like 50 alone in London, I think. So a lot of my job is kind of finding out information about what people need to actually do, and that can be quite difficult sometimes. But then once I kind of get that, suggesting them options for what will work well. So it's a lot of like negotiating and things like that, but basically trying to get them in the right kind of environment for their project.
Because I guess a lot of studios that you are kind of working with are all kind of bespoke and they're very different, so it's kind of understanding what the artist requires in order to complete their project. Is that kind of how it works?
Definitely, yeah. Just kind of trying to help them as much as we can really and put them in the right environment, because we've got like programming rooms, but then we have more kind of full-scale trapping rooms like the pool and Livingston where Henri used to work. So yeah, it just depends what they need to do really. So, yeah.
So it's worth anyone that's again interested in recording to check out the Moloko website, because they've got again kind of profiles of all the studios, haven't they? And some of them look absolutely incredible, location-wise and also what they've got. I mean, there's one that's always on their homepage which has got a slide that goes from upstairs straight into the control room, which I'm pretty sure is probably very popular.
Yeah, it's in Portobello Road, but yeah, there's all sorts of different spaces. So like residential studios and rest of the UK, rest of the world, America. So yeah, wherever you need somewhere, really, we'll try and help make it happen.
Amazing. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. Mr. Henri Davies, please introduce yourself.
I'm Henri. I'm a producer, writer. I used to start at Moloko in a studio called Livingston in North London. Then just moved out of Moloko actually, and do more freelance stuff with my own management company, working with loads of different artists. And, yeah, loads of fun things going on.
So your kind of role is very much creative?
Yeah, very creative. Obviously the business side is, still has to happen, you still have to deal with that. But obviously you have managers there who can deal with that sort of money and all that, so you don't have to deal with it. But yeah, fully creative, which is really nice. It's like the dream.
Yeah. So a mixture of using things like, again, as people may know, software such as like Pro Tools, Logic. Is that the kind of area you're at?
Yeah. So kind of depending on what studio you're in. If I'm working in my own studio, I use Ableton, or if I'm in a big studio, I use Pro Tools, or like it varies what kind of DAW you use.
Yeah. Great. And Fifi Holley.
Hello, I'm Fifi. I'm the only one that doesn't work at Moloko or have anything to do with Moloko. So sorry about that, probably quite boring. I am an artist manager. I work for September Management. So we're predominantly a management company, and we've also got a record label called September Recordings and a publishing company called September Publishing. But I just work solely on the management side. I manage JMET, Rex Orange County, Glass Animals and Valencia Grace, and some of them I kind of work on my own, and some of them there's like 2 or 3, maybe 4 of us on the management side in a team. I love my job. I have sold my soul to the job though. I pretty much have no life, but I love it at the moment. But yeah, my job is like, there is no normal day-to-day of what's going on and what you could be doing. I could spend 3 weeks every day in the office doing admin, doing budgets, filling out forms, doing all the boring stuff, and then the next day I could be somewhere on like a video shoot or flown out to somewhere else to fly somebody's wig to a show, which is a true story. So yeah, it's kind of all over the place and you never know what's going to happen.
I'm assuming there's people in here that have heard of those bands, JVT, Rex Orange County, Glass Animals.
I hope so.
Great, a great little roster, but again, appreciating how much time must take to work with 4 separate artists who are on 4 different schedules, working on different records or at different points of their career. I guess that's kind of one of the things that you've got to try and keep on top of, is understanding where everyone's at when you're dipping into that kind of project.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing is, you can think you have an idea of like how the rest of my year is going to pan out, and like who's going to be in campaign, who's going to be on tour, and it'd be like, okay, this is manageable, I can like do my job well on everything, and then all of a sudden someone will come out of the woodwork and be like, oh, I actually want to put an album out in a month, and then you've just got to like scramble to put everything together, or somebody gets like dropped from their record deal, or the drummer doesn't want to be the drummer anymore. So it's like, yeah, anything can change. It works out really nice when it does balance out, but obviously a lot of the time it doesn't, and you just got to kind of like be ready for anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's obviously a great introduction, I feel. Everyone's kind of got a bit of an idea about what it does. So just a reminder, James is an engineer at Maloko Studios, specifically the pool.
Yes.
Why is it called the pool?
The floor's blue.
Ah, right. That's what I was hoping for.
There's never a pool.
Lottie is the bookings manager from Maloko Studios. Henri is a writer producer, and Fifi is an artist manager. So we've got a bit of a selection. As we said, 3 of them have had contact with Maloko Studios prior. Henri used to work there, but now does not. So everyone is currently at that particular stage in their career. But I think it'd be worth just discussing kind of what your initial aspirations were when you were kind of studying, because again, these guys all studied at Platform 1, and at the time of studying, like many currently studying there, a little bit unsure about what to do in the future. Might be a couple of different potential career paths, but ultimately, it follows an interest. Now, I mean, let's start with Fifi again at the end. When you were studying Platform 1, what was your kind of like real passion when you were at Platform 1?
So, just to give a bit of context, I did like Saturday Rock School as a drummer, and then did the BTEC, and then did the degree. And I guess obviously Saturday Rock School was like in bands, fun, and then I soon realised that I didn't want to be a drummer, like I didn't want to be a musician, but I still loved doing it. So I think that was the point where I was like, I have no idea what I want to do. I know I want to work in the music industry somewhere, but I don't want to be like in a band. And I started helping out both Henri and James in different bands, just like basically being their mum and babysitter, being like, if you've got a gig, yeah, I guess so, but at the time I was pretty much a mum. And then I learned, I was like, oh, that's somebody's role, that's a tour manager. But yeah, that was definitely a thing of like figuring out what I wanted to do, and the main reason why I did the degree at Platform 1 was because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like, I know I don't want to be a musician my whole life, but there's like something in there, and I liked like being the organised one and being a bit bossy and like telling people what to do, and that's why the degree was kind of perfect, because you could like experience a snippet of like each different part of the industry. And then what happened next? I volunteered at the Isle of Wight Festival when I was 17, illegally, but we won't go to that. I was too young. Artist liaison on the main stage, just like running about backstage, getting people's dressing rooms ready and stuff. And then after that, I was like, oh, I'm really into this side of it, like being backstage, like working with the artists, but on like a different side of it. You're like helping them out and all of that kind of thing. So yeah, and then it all kind of like followed on from there. It's a long story, but generally I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew the bits I didn't like. I really wanted to like the studio stuff, because obviously most of my friends were like really into it, but I wasn't. Oh, sorry, where is he? I really wanted to like it, but I just couldn't get my head around it. So I was quickly going through being like, no, don't like that, don't like that. Sorry, mate.
Because funny enough, that in the artist liaison opportunity still happens through Platform 1 at the Alumni Festival. Every year, a selection of students get the opportunity, they put themselves forward to go and work backstage, and that's kind of quite often the first delve into the music industry, isn't it? Like working with, like again, huge artists that play the main stage, and you're something like 17 going, oh wow, that's so-and-so, and you have to deal with them.
It's really cool, and that's one of the like amazing things about having the festival here, is that I can't imagine that would happen like anywhere else, where obviously Platform have like the relationship with them to start this conversation, but like Lottie came for a bit and did some, and did some as well over there. Did you do anything? No, sorry, still covered it, didn't
This year? Oh,
But yeah, it's a really good opportunity to get a taster of it, and it's a weekend, and you live on the island, you can go home every night, and it's, yeah, you just like get chucked into the deep end, but it's great, and you meet loads of people, and you're just like instantly getting another side of the industry and seeing into things. I'd highly recommend it if somebody, like, you just got to be ready to do anything, basically, run about. Good trainers.
Yeah, good trainers, definitely. In fact, just before I say Henry, if anyone is wanting any drinks, feel free to go and get them. Don't feel like it's a bit awkward, or just go and order some drinks at your bar. Henry Davies, if I'm right in saying, you kind of got into the passion that is recording like towards the end.
Yeah, I think that started off kind of, I think as every young musician wants to be, is like, I want to be in the next happening band. And right, so I think everyone should want to do that and have like but I think I soon discovered that being on stage wasn't for me. And as you know, Dee helped me out to do a lot in the early days of kicking around the Isle of Wight.
Basically telling when you need to like wake up.
Then me and James were in a few bands together. Played like Wight Festival, which was an amazing experience. I think after that, though, I was like, I enjoyed the studio a lot more, and just being creative in that area. I think that's where I really fell into that passion of like wanting to record music and make music, and be creative in that side of things.
Yeah, because you sort of really committed yourself to the studio in that last year you were there, weren't you? Do you know what? I actually love the studio, and I'm just going to go in there all the time.
Yeah, just I think especially at Platform 1, they've got amazing facilities. Just use it as much as you can. It's free, and I think especially when you move out and like move to any city which has studios and you have to pay for it, that's when you soon realise it's like, oh wow, I should use more of that facility.
And it shows. I mean, obviously it shows. The fact that you've been able to get a job in the recording industry initially. Because you put in all that work. It's almost obvious to say, but you put the time in and reap the rewards.
Exactly. I think Platform really showed you how to work those studios to a level where you can go into another room and you can get around it and know what you're doing to a certain level for sure.
I think we should give Mr. Steve Collins a round of applause. He's head of
I love
production recording. Lots of film.
So I was just thinking, because I'm a bit older than these three, not by much, but I did the diploma at Platform 1 and then did the degree, but I didn't ever know. I think even thinking back then, I was like, should I do the degree? I'll give it a go, see how I fare. And loved it, it was great. So I played drums and piano, and then whilst I was at Platform 1, kind of ended up discovering that I had a bit of a voice. So I ended up singing as well, and then was in a band called Paper Romance. And that was I think, what I'm trying to get at is I didn't ever kind of know what I wanted to do, similar to Fifi really, so ended up singing in this band, and then we played the Isle of Wight Festival main stage, and that was completely we just did white noise to kind of get some feedback on our songs, because we were we're in the first year of the degree at that point, and I think anyone that is kind of doing material like in a band should try and do that process, just even if you don't. We had no idea that we were just like, oh god, and then had to record an EP and yeah, so that was kind of that. And I think kind of similar to what Henri said, like kind of was like, oh, you know, maybe want to be a musician, like kind of make it with that, but then kind of realised how much work has to go into that and time.
Yeah, I think you just realise like, oh, there's other parts of the industry which might be more appealing to you, and you like until you learn about it, you don't really know what's out there, and it makes it broadens your horizons.
It does.
And you can still be a creative person and have like a creative outlet, and you don't have to be like in a band.
Yeah, like you just learn. Like I think after doing that, I still kind of retained, because the drummer, like he ended up going from cruise ship. So in the third year, I was like, oh, goodness me, like that Henri, like, you know, such a unit, but it didn't feel right to really do the band without him. So it was probably in my third year that I was like, right, I just need to get stuck in and like work with other people. So got the opportunity to work with Andy Gray off the back of like Dave, you know, putting that out there, and then we ended up doing like a little EP. So I kind of was like, oh, okay, this is cool, you know, working with other people, and just that opened a few other things as well. And then, yeah, like Fifi said, joined terms doing artist liaison. So I think if you just kind of keep an open mind and just, you know,
say yes.
kind of, yeah, just say yes, like, that's exactly what, you know, that's what kind of stresses them.
Great. Because I do remember you playing, you were playing in a lot of projects. Again, drumming in one, playing keys in one, vocals in one.
State's Quo tribute band.
Yeah.
I play drums for that, guys.
Great.
It's great.
That was a great band. It was really good. But yeah, excellent, amazing. James Pinfield-Wells.
I wanted to be a drummer. That was the goal, really. I did rock school with Fifi and Henri. I think that's where we met, actually. We met at rock school, and then just wanted to be a drummer. That's pretty much all I did. I didn't really know. Well, actually, that's not true. I sucked at guitar, so I started playing drums, and then I was like, oh, this is cool. So I started, you know, really sort of going to town. I just only wanted to be a drummer. Did the B-Tech, was just like, I just want to drum. That's all I care about. You were my drum tutor for the. I don't know if it was both years, but it was definitely
Too long.
it's too long. And then did the degree, still just kind of wanted to be a drummer. But I think there was a lot of time we spent, Henri, we had a band, there's some other people in it, and we spent so much time recording like in the studios, just trying to copy our favourite records. But it never really clicked that we were like actually learning how to make records. We were just like, oh, you're in a band, and then you record it, and then you play live, and then you get huge and make loads of money. But we were actually just like, without realising it, like learning how to make records on the B-Tech sort of thing. Because I think we started going into the studios. I don't remember if B-Tech students were allowed to go into the studios at that time, so...
Have to change that now.
Huh?
Have to change that.
Yeah, they should.
Oh, they're very much in the studios now.
Nice. I can't remember if we were, but I remember we went in with a degree student, and he recorded us.
Yeah.
And that was actually Ben Cadman. He recorded us, and I remember that was when we were like, oh damn, you can actually like, there's like levels of like, you can be good at this, and then you can be better at it, and then because this guy, I don't know what he does now, but he was better at it than we were. So then we were like, oh, we should just maybe our records can sound better, you know. But then still, I didn't really care about that stuff too much. I was still just wanting to be like a world famous drummer. And then did the degree. Still just wanted to be a drummer. But then I think there was, I can't remember what point we started getting studios with Steve and started to learn stuff. But Steve would always, there was this one module where he was like, pick a record and just like copy it straight up. Like, and I can't remember what song? Probably Foals or something like that. I think it was. I don't know.
It was definitely in there.
I think
it was in there.
Yeah, it was definitely around that time, and I'm pretty sure I was with Tom and we did it. We were just trying to copy these records. And then on your third year degree, we were still doing the band stuff, me and Henri. And on your third year degree, we did the commercial project. And over this time, I sort of became like a bit of a control freak with my drum sounds. I kind of liked. I was never the guy. I was kind of. I don't want to use the word manipulative, but I definitely surrounded myself with people that could just do stuff for me. So we had a friend called Frankie, and if I wanted to record something, I was just like, Frankie will do it, you know. And if I wanted to get some good bass parts down, I was like, Henri will just do that, you know. So I was just surrounding myself with people that could do it for me. But all my friends were the year above me, like Fifi and Henri, we've been tight for so long. But they were like a year above me, so then when they graduated, I had no one else to do stuff for me anymore. So I had to learn it. And then, remember this? Yeah, it was hard, man. And then, so the third year degree had to do a commercial project, so I wrote a song, and I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to just learn how to record this stuff myself now. So I bought some gear with the money that was definitely supposed to go on food and rent and stuff. Used it to buy recording. So it was like an 8-track interface, some real cheap mics and just some Rocket monitoring. And I just set it up in my dad's he had this old unit where we more or less grew up in this old, horrendous, abandoned, it was just a workshop. My dad was a carpenter or a cabinet maker, and then he bailed on it, so it was just horribly dusty. It's just sawdust, old Victorian, table saws and stuff. It was horrible. Breathing in dust from the 80s definitely wasn't horrendous. But we spent all our time there learning how to make records. But then when they graduated and they started I think Henri moved immediately off to London, and so I bought my own stuff, started doing it myself, and then realised that I had so much control over how my drums and everything was sounding at that point. That was when I submitted the piece, but then Jim and Rob Holmes, they own Empire Sound now in Newport, recording studio. They picked it up and were like, this is great, we want to sign this project, this is a cool song, can we have it, we want to remix it and sign it. I was like, yeah, I don't care, I already handed it in and got it first. Do what you want with it, sort of thing. And then they were like, oh, we've played it to a record label and they want it. And I was like, damn, what? I recorded this thing and then whatever, Drongo, was it called? Correct. And then I bailed on it. I just kind of was like, this was just a uni thing, it wasn't supposed to do anything, so I sort of stopped it. But I kind of just kept recording things just for fun at that point. I just kind of was experimenting with just having that amount of control. Graduated from Platform 1, started just hanging out at Jim and Rob's old studio was Humbug in Cowes, and got to know them a little bit. And then I just started every weekend, but no, not weekends because I work on weekends, but most days. If I had a day, I would just be like, can I just come and hang out? And they'd be like, yeah, we don't care. So I just sit in the back and occasionally make tea, but generally I was just a weird kid in the corner that was just watching them make records. And that was
still doing it now.
Kind of, yeah. And that was kind of it. And then there was this one scenario I think where they just asked me to play drums or mic check something. They were like, oh, you can play drums too. So then they started me up. They asked me in a few times to play drums for some records they were working on, which was cool. But then also I was kind of assisting them at times and just learning from them how to do stuff. But I was working in the Sloop in Wootton at the time.
Great roasts.
Questionable carveries, but incredible breakfasts.
I'll take that back.
Yeah, I was working in Sloop, but then I kind of got sick. I was like, why have I just studied music for so long to then just pour pints, you know? And then I asked my dad if he would be cool with me building a recording studio at the old warehouse where we were just learning how to do it. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, cool. So then I took a massive loan out from the bank and then just built this studio because I was like, I want to be an engineer and a producer. Like, I only really got into recording after the degree. Really, like, I loved doing it, but it was only after that I realised that that was something I was actually interested in. The whole being a drummer thing just seemed to stop. I just stopped really thinking about it too much. I mean, I still play now, but the dream of being like a drummer sort of died. And I just started building this recording studio, which is now Jim and Rob's studio. They took it on, I built it, was running it part-time. Maybe I've got like the whole timeline mixed up, but there was definitely times where I was teaching at Platform 1. Did that for like 4 years, I think, 4.5 years. And then there was a time, I had a conversation with Dave where I was like, I'd like to run my studio part-time whilst teaching at Platform 1. So the hours, we split the hours in half and it was really cool. I was drum tutor for like 2 days, then just running the studio the rest of the time. But then along came COVID and like just destroyed everything. Like the business that I'd sort of worked on for like 2 years or something just like stopped overnight. Everything stopped. Platform 1 closed for like the time and I was like, damn, what do I do? No one really knew what to do apart from my old friend Henri, who just sort of gave me a call and was like, Moloko are looking for assistant engineers and we haven't got time to train because I'm pretty sure like I might, like Moloko would normally train assistants through internship programs and apprenticeship programs, right?
Yeah, normally.
But that had to stop because of COVID and you needed just people who could just come in and do the job without training. And Henri was like, do you want to just do it? And I was like, I don't know, man. That sounds like a lot. And then I had a phone call with Sam Reedy, who was like, what was his role at the time? Bookings manager. He called me and was like, Henri says you want a job. And I was like, hilarious. Yeah, I guess. And then he was like, cool, send me your CV, sent it off. And then at the end of the week he was like, can you come up for an interview tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, okay. And then I was like, well, what if I get the job where I'm going to leave? And then me old friend Fifi was like, my flatmate just moved out, you can live here if you get the job. And I was like, oh damn, yeah, cool. So then went up to stay with Fifi, had this interview, and then just didn't come home. Straight up, I was like, the phone call Henri gave me, I was like, yeah, cool. I had this whole like out-of-body experience where I was like talking to Tom, I was like, I can't move to London, man. Like, I don't even know where a Sainsbury's is in London. Like, there's people everywhere sort of thing. And then like 2 weeks later, I was just like living with Fee in Streatham with just a backpack and just like, and then I think I assisted Henri on a session just to like sort of ease me in. And then they were like, cool, Skepta's on his way in, you can do that. And I was like, this is crazy. I'd gone from like straight up just like building my own studio and just like making records for fun. And then like COVID happened and 2 weeks later, Henri's like, do you want a job? And then like 24 hours after that, they're like, Skepta's on his way, you've got a week.
I mean, to be fair, that is a great story. I think those of you that have heard of Empire Sound, which is Jim and Rob's home studio, yeah, I mean, the fact that James put that together and attracted Jim, because they've been really successful in what they do, in being producers and musicians, and they were in a band themselves, and the fact that they moved out of their old place to come and take over what you started.
Yeah, I mean, they entirely remodeled that place.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
They were like, this is great, but like, this isn't. Let's just start.
They have spent a lot of time building.
Yeah, and it's like so much better than what I had. But like, it's still, the walls are still there,
But what's amazing from what everyone said here is that everyone started first of all playing an instrument and thinking, this is what I've got to do. Like I play an instrument, so I must have to play an instrument forever. I mean, well, Henri and James especially now in their job roles, it still involves playing, whether that's composing, writing, playing the instruments, but it just involves another set of skills. That's something that you're a little bit more passionate about. I think that's kind of something that's one of the reasons why we're doing this, is just to show people that there are other opportunities that may not be what you think you want to do at that moment in time. You played drums for 10 years, So you're going to be a drummer. Oh, hang on a minute. An engineer job's come up. I really love recording. I'm going to do that. And that's the kind of beauty of it. And that's really what I want to get out of these guys today is how that's how that's come about. We're just going to do another kind of 5-10 minutes and have a quick break. But I think James has just kind of touched upon that. Is how do you go from doing a degree or studying music with a passion for music and actually getting proper work, like proper employment? Lottie, were you the first out of this group to go off island, to go London direction, or was it?
I kind of moved to Belfast, a bit of a rogue move, and then I moved back to, well, after my degree, then I moved back to the Isle of Wight, and then to London. But Fifi and Henri have been in London for about a year or so before me.
So who was the? I mean, obviously Henri, you've been picked out as a marksman in terms of like, I'll recruit you, come to my squad. Is that, were you kind of first in amongst it in terms of the Moloko? How did the Moloko thing come about?
So the Moloko thing came about, I just applied for the internship there. So I was really eager just to work in studios. So applied there, did like a 3-month internship. At that time it was unpaid, especially in London. I was staying on your floor, didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah. So staying on twice. There you go, yeah. That's yes, I did like a 3-month internship with Moloko straight out of uni. I think that's when you really take a grasp on like recording in general, and especially in London in big commercial rooms, and how big of a job it is. But it shows you so much insight and so much passion into other people's work, and I think that's when you kind of really say, I really want to do this as a career. So yeah, I just started at Moloko, did 3 months internship, and they offered me a full-time in-house job at Livingston Studios, which I was in there for 4 years. In that time, I think I picked up James, then Lottie as well.
You went to the church as well?
Oh yeah, I went to the church as well. Worked with Paul Epworth, who's an amazing producer.
Which is a studio, not just going to the church.
Oh yes.
No, yeah, it's a studio in Crouch End, which is a beautiful studio. Then it's kind of, I think with any of that is just as long as people see that you're eager and willing, that really shows. And I think that's what I've learned the most is when people watch you work and know that you're interested in it, want to do it, and people take that on board and like, right, I'm going to keep you around because you're interested in this and you're passionate about it. I think that's sort of the main thing I've learned.
Because you got some pretty cool credits, like quite soon into your time. Right? You're working with a few good artists, which I'm sure people will know. Go on, do some thing.
So I did a lot with Sam Smith on his 3rd album. So pretty much spent like 7 months with him and his team, like writing and recording his 2nd album, so long ago. But yeah, I think that was like the big one. I think kind of really broke into it. Then I think it's like a revolving door in any studio working with different artists. Then the more you make an impact on them, make their lives easier, the more they're going to want you back. And that's how you kind of get regular work, is make an impact on people's, on their whole experience in recording in general anyway.
His reputation makes especially in the music industry, is massive, isn't it? Massive.
Yeah.
It makes a massive difference if someone recommends you and you can do a job.
Exactly, yeah. And I think even though on the outside you think it's a really big world, in matter of fact, everyone knows everyone. So the more energy you put in, the more people recognise it. And I think, it's mad that everyone...
It is a tiny industry.
Tiny industry, even though it looks huge on the outside. You think it's this big, scary thing. In matter of fact, it's just everyday people just wanting, who are passionate about music.
I mean, our worlds cross over all the time.
Yeah.
The amount of time, you manage glass animals, and I work with those all so often. And it's so weird how often you just see the same people just all the time, just working on different projects. Everyone's just all trying to get work, and you just keep saying the same faces.
Yeah, it's a nice little, especially I guess in your guys in the studio world, like once people start coming back for like a second time as well, like especially if you're like, say in one session you're not that involved, I guess if somebody comes back and they recognise you and they're like, oh hey man, it's like, I don't know, I imagine it'd be quite nice.
It's like a immediate comfort.
Yeah.
You know, when you just do, it only takes like one session for you to like make like just have a face, or just like tell like, I don't know, just be like a guy, or you know, whatever, just someone there. And then, you know, I just wear this hat all the time, you know? So then people are just like, I know you from
Hat with a wig.
yeah. They were like, I've seen you at a different studio, and then it's immediately just like such an easy session because you've already met, you know?
Especially if like people, you end up spending 12 hours a day with someone in, you know, most of the time they're room with no windows. You want to like them at least and like get on with them and have a chat. Just the internship, sorry to dive on.
No, that's good.
Go through Maloko and worked your way up through the ranks.
Yeah, great way. Internships, great way to get into the industry. Fee, what about you? How did you get? Because did you go to Warner for a little bit, reception?
I did. I'm trying to remember how it all started. So obviously I was volunteering every year at the Alumni Festival doing artist liaison, and then I started to like pick up other jobs through that. There's amazing women who I literally owe my career to, Kaz Hill, who was the head of artist liaison there, and she did other like festivals and different events. So I like weekends and stuff, I'd go and volunteer, and obviously I'd have to like, I literally wasn't getting paid tours, I'd have to pay for like a hotel room for 4 nights near Alton Towers that cost like, yeah, stupid stuff. Pay like for your own travel, and then it all started like working out the end, and I started getting like offered money for it, all that kind of thing. And then I remember I was working at Wight Festival one year. I think we'd finished the degree in like May or something. Does that make sense? Of like the month that it finishes. And then obviously June was Wight Festival, and I remember I was working. My best mate who lived in London at the time, she was studying degree at Goldsmiths, and they were moving into a new house, and she rang me up and she was like, oh, you always banging on about moving to London, we've got another room in this house, we haven't said yes yet, like, do you want to come and live with us? And I remember I was doing night shifts at the time at the Wight Festival, and it was this like weird time before I had to go back to work where you just like had no idea what time of day it was or what was going on. I got this phone call and I was like, oh my god, I don't know what to do I do it? And it was to move in like 3 weeks later or something. And I remember exactly where I was when I was like, oh, okay, yeah, fine, I'm gonna do it. And I remember going back to work that night and being like, oh my god, what have I done? I hadn't signed anything yet, but I just said I was gonna do it, like I was fully committing. So that was scary, knowing that I was going to move to London and not having a job. So I started applying for internships, volunteer work, anything. And obviously the problem with the artist liaison stuff I was doing is that it's pretty much seasonal. So like summer's really busy, but outside of that, you can't have guaranteed work at all. So then I ended up getting an internship at like a live production company. And very fortunate that it was paid, but I think when I worked it out, it was something like £2.40 an hour, which is just like, what's the point? Don't even bother if you're going to pay that less. And then I was doing that for like 6 months, and it was pretty rough. It was like my first introduction to like the real world of working music in London, and it ended up not being that great. Dodgy company, dodgy guy, dodgy money, everything really bad, but I learned a lot from it, and it was quite a mad experience. And then after that, where did I go? Oh, the O2, started working at the O2, which Lottie also works at the O2 as well. So we were doing like guest relations stuff, so we were basically like on a different position every night, and we'd be like in customer service, dealing with people moaning their seats broken, or like somebody's been sick in their hair and they want to move, people being like really nasty and really horrible. I remember at, oh my god, what they called special, I think it was a specials gig, and I was working in the cloakroom, and some guy asked for his coat and it took more than like 2 seconds for me to turn around and get it. And he spat in my hair. And I remember at that point I was like, I don't get paid enough to do this. This is rubbish. It was freelance, 0-hour contract. So basically the way it worked is that you get an email at the top of the month being like, these are all the gigs and all the events going on at the O2. You fill in which gigs you want to do, and then we'll let you know which one you actually get. So I remember in August one year, I had 1 day work, which was pretty rubbish. And it was a lot of time on your feet, and there was like lots of us, and it was great because you got to see amazing shows. Some of like the positions that we'd be on would be like on the disabled platform or like up in the suites and stuff, so you saw some amazing stuff, but I was like, it's just not sustainable, and there wasn't enough work. So I started working at the same time at the box office at the O2 Academy in Islington, which was good, something different that I hadn't done before. So I wouldn't actually be like working at the gigs on the box office. It was all kind of like the prep before. You're getting like guest lists ready, any label pickups, all that kind of stuff, which I really enjoyed doing. And then I was trying to balance the 2 jobs at the same time, and like one of them had to give pretty much. So I decided to quit all of it, and then I went to Warner Music, and I was on reception, and I ended up being there for 4 years, and I was in the facilities team at the end, so like helping more with like events that were going on in the building, across like all the different meeting rooms, a lot of admin stuff again, like updating phone books, all the boring stuff, but at the same time I was like taking in all the information and being like, who is everyone? And I'd literally see someone like walk in the morning, and I'm like, I kind of recognise them, and they look important because they've got nice fancy clothes on and they smell good. It's how you know someone's important, if they smell good. And then I'd say to security, like, who is that guy? And I'd easily like look them up on the directory and be like, oh, okay, they sit in like this position at Parlophone or whatever, and you find out they're head of whatever it is. So yeah, all the way through that, I was just like learning who everyone was and like how it works as well. Like the big building above me, and had friends in different departments and stuff. And that's, I never really wanted to get into like the rest of the label stuff. I think I was quite in a position of like watching everything else going on. I was able to like have a different view of it and be like, yeah, that's probably not for me, but something like this. And then the way that I got the September job was that somebody that I interviewed with at Universal Music like 5 years before that for a similar job at Warner, she had like remembered me for whatever reason, really cringy, and I hate saying it, but she said she put like an asterisk by my name when she interviewed me, and then 5 years later she messaged me on LinkedIn and was like, hey, are you happy in your job? Because something's come up and I remember interviewing you, like, do you want to have a chat? And I was like, oh, this is weird timing. Like, I remember, like, yeah, it was just pretty mad how it all happened. And then, yeah, I went for the interview of that. So I've, like, tried a few things.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, again, this is the point. This is the kind of point we're trying to get across here, is that, you know, it doesn't just happen. You don't just land there straight away. You've got to do some grafting. You've got to try other things. You've got to meet people. I think, you know, everyone here has said that it's because they've met somebody in particular, but also the peer relationships, like, unbelievably great. Here is, you know, everyone here is still linked up, considering they study together. You know, and it shows the importance of making sure you do stay in contact with people that you are, you know, potentially making music with or learning with, studying with, because it could land something later on. Which I thought would be a nice way to start the this half is achievements kind of greatest achievements, things that you've done, career highlights so far that you feel is kind of like, I love my job, this is what I've always wanted to do. Let's start with Fee on the end. Fee, what's your, you've probably got many, I mean this is, if you've got many, that you're obviously again doing something amazingly great, but...
Definitely my greatest achievement is joining the Jamie T management camp like 2 months before his latest record came out, which is his 5th one. Obviously he's been going for like 15 years. So coming into it very late, and then we managed to get his first #1 album of his career. And he's like a 37-old white man, and he thought he didn't have it in him anymore. And yeah, getting him his first #1 album was amazing.
Did you get the plaque?
Yes, I got my first ever #1 plaque. Yeah.
That's an achievement. Everyone's seen them, everyone's seen those and always thought that'd be nice to have. Did you
Yeah.
Just the one you've got, or is there other plaques at home that you
No, that's the only one. I also was part of the management team of Rex Orange County, got his first #1 album, which was like a couple of years ago. And then I've just joined the Glass Animals team, and they've never had a #1 album, which I find very surprising.
Which is mad, because they had, was it one of the biggest, it was like Heatwave was one of the, or the biggest stream song last year or the year before.
It's like broken all the records for anything ever. So there's a lot of pressure for the next album. They're literally at home now being like, fuck, what are we going to do? Basically.
So they must have, because they're American, are they?
No,
they are?
Yeah, they're British. They're actually like all from Oxford.
I always thought they were American.
Which again is funny because James has been in the studio with them loads, so it's another like weird crossover thing.
Yeah. Because I'm guessing, again talking about achievements from Jamie T. Jamie T was, he'd gone, just disappeared for like a number of years, hadn't he? And so I guess that was kind of, the celebration was that you brought him back to life essentially, and really, I guess brought the fan base back to life.
Yeah, I think it was literally like 6 years between his latest albums. So I'm a massive fan of him, so I was also like really into it and wanted the best and was giving it my everything. But you have got to remember that those people, definitely like our generation growing up, might not like him anymore, or might think it's like, oh, cliche, like British London boy chatting rubbish basically and trying to be a rapper, but he's not a rapper. So it was a challenge, but it's gone really well, and I think it's just kind of solidified him as more of like an iconic classic artist now. Like, he has an amazing discography, and he's proven that he still has got it, like 5 albums in, and he was like about to give up and put his hat down and be like, right, I'm done, and it's just given him like a new lease of life and more albums, so yeah, really cool.
Amazing, really great. Henri Davies.
Yes.
I mean, I think at this point it's probably worth you mentioning what you've been doing most recently, because that is, you would never ever think of that scenario for something, you know, a creator, a producer.
So also do like writing, producing for artists, also do music for runway shows. So do stuff like Louis Vuitton, Off-White, Vogue, Burberry, Jill Sander, which I never thought I'd ever get into, ever, is doing music for runway shows. But it's just a really fun thing to do, and I think it shows, you know, you go down one path and what you think you want to do, but then halfway through that path you might be like, oh, I'll try this out and really like it. So I think that's probably one of my biggest achievements with that, was doing the last Louis Vuitton show we did with Kendrick Lamar, which is probably, well, he's like my favourite artist of all time.
He's pretty big time as well.
Pretty big time. So I was working with their team and putting the show together, and choosing the music for that was pretty amazing. But other than that, I think just doing it every day. Biggest achievement. I think such a hard industry to get into, but I think once you're in and just show your passion, it's just
very well said. Very well said. But I mean, because Henri's got this, you know, Instagram where every now and again this little snippet will pop up, and you'll be like, "What's he doing there? What's he doing there? Like New York? What's going on there?" And then like he's at a fashion show. It's like, "A fashion show? What are you up to?" And then all of a sudden he's like, Yes, I'm behind the music. It's like that's me. It's like wow, okay, that's pretty massive.
Yeah, I think it's
I mean, it's a global again. Like you've travelled around the world.
yeah, definitely going like Paris, Milan, New York, London.
Sounds like a song.
Yeah, exactly. It does.
Lyrics there
Lyrics.
somewhere.
There you go. Next song. But yeah, it's just I think it's it shows you can just no matter what you're doing. Music, there's so many different options. Even when you get into it, if you want to do anything creative, those windows and doors are always open to explore.
Yeah, amazing, brilliant. Lottie, what do you feel so far in your career has been your biggest achievement? I mean, you got promoted in your current business.
Yeah, so getting promoted was quite achievement, yeah. And I guess because the recording industry is quite predominantly male dominated, so when I first started at Moloko, it was only 2 women, and then the rest of the team was men, and it's definitely a bit more diverse now, but getting promoted to bookings manager was quite I felt really proud of it, because it was kind of 4 years of kind of slogging it, assisting, and then okay. But I don't know, I guess achievements, not really achievement, but I've got to book some really cool artists who I admire, and that's been quite sometimes a bit of a pinch me moment. It's just okay. So that's been pretty cool. And then more recently, kind of during COVID, everything went quiet, so I kind of took the opportunity to kind of think about just stuff I could do, like we all did, and I just thought about, I wanted to reach out to some other women in the industry and just start some open conversations about how Moloko could maybe help, just generally speaking across if there's anything we could do to get people in the studios or what that might look like. And I reached out to Vic Bain, who's the founder of the F List, which is a big kind of directory of kind of female and gender non-identifying kind of people. So it's a big network of people not just in kind of recording studios but across the industry, so A&Rs and live, all sorts of different roles. So I thought, I'll just tweet her and see if she's up for a chat. And she got back to me and she was like, yeah, I'll have a chat with you. And it was quite interesting because as I was speaking to her, she hadn't really done a lot of research in the recording side of the industry, so it was an area that she didn't really know much about. And I was just saying to her, I would love to try and do something at Moloko, because the support was there. And we kind of hashed out an idea of kind of doing a workshop where it enabled kind of however many people to kind of get in a commercial studio and kind of get hands-on with the desk and everything like that. Because not everyone, it's great about Platform One that you have the 2 studios and get a lot of hands-on experience, but you don't always get that time, one-on-one, to actually really get a feel for the rooms and stuff like that. And that's a big kind of thing that as the conversation progressed over the weeks, Vic was saying about the confidence and everything like that, so I was like, okay. And I think kind of being one of only 2 girls in my degree, it's something that I've felt very passionate about since playing drums from the age of 12 really. I'm sure Fifi feels very similar. You don't come across many, I think you do so now, but when we were kind of studying, there wasn't, there weren't really any other female drummers, and so I always had that in the back of my mind, I really want to try and do something. And fast forward a few conversations, she was like, right, leave it with me. She got in touch with Help Musicians and they agreed to fund it, and then Moloko were behind providing the studio, so COVID finally got itself out of the way, in a way, and then we managed to hold the first one last April, and that was a bit kind of touch and go because I was like, I don't really know how this is going to look like, but yeah, Catherine and Davies and Isola, they put together like the kind of program for it, and it went really well. And then we did another one in July, and then October, and then the last one was kind of, well, the last one of this series was in January. So yeah, I think it's 19 people got to experience like the 2-day workshop, and we're hoping to kind of continue them and expand. It's just in talks of help musicians at the moment, so that's something that I've been quite proud of. And probably when I was studying at Platform 1, I would never have seen myself kind of doing that in the future, you know. It's like, but I think, you know, sometimes you can make things happen if you just reach out to the right people, or, you know, just have open conversations and just see where they go, really.
Yeah, that's amazing. Again, that is an amazing achievement. I think, you know, when you are, especially the last kind of 10, 15 years, you know, we've seen that it is a male-dominated, or has been a male-dominated industry, and definitely there is a shift now. There are a lot more females kind of entering. I mean, my A&R was Jo Sherrington, who signed Sam Smith, and she was one of the only females at Sony at the time, you know, and now she's just taken over EMI, and it is mainly female-fronted, that whole label, which is, again, incredible. So yeah, I mean, that's round of applause, because that is a great inspiration as well, really inspirational. Hello, James. Andy, what's your highlight or achievement, favourite moment?
It always feels like the goalposts are moving. Like when I was working on just stuff on the island, like, I always wanted to just work like a signed act, and then when I started working on Loco, that's kind of all you do, which is kind of cool. And then you start like, oh, it would be cool to work on like an artist I've heard of and like I like. And then when I landed the job in the pool, it was right when Florence and the Machine were finishing off her latest record. So I managed, I don't know how many months it was, maybe like 2 or 3 months just spent finishing off that record with her and the team. So that was quite a big one, just because I was never really massively into Florence, but she was just a name that was always around when I was, you know, growing up and stuff. So that was a cool one. And then the first major one for me was, there's an artist, he's just about to release a second record, it's called Willie J. Healy, and I love his music, and I saw his name on the diary, and I messaged, it might have been you, but I was pestering the management to put me on the session. I was like, you need to put me in this room because I love this guy. And then Lottie was like, oh, that's great, because we need someone to do it. And also, I don't know if you know, but the producer is Lauren Humphreys, who he did the last 2 Arctic Monkeys records, and he was like the drummer for the last Shadow Puppets, and he does some other wicked stuff. And I was like, this is crazy. And then I was in the room with Lauren, and I was just picking his brains about like just recording and working with the Monkeys and stuff. And like just to be in the room with like Willie was great. And then Jamie T came along to lay a verse down, which was mad because love that guy. Then Billy Martin turned up to do a verse. And then I was like, this is crazy that all these people in the same room. Then Flight turned up, and then all those guys were in the room. That was just mad. I was just in this tiny room, just like, this is nuts to just be in the room with all these people. So that was kind of cool. It's all like all the achievements for me. They're kind of more like, but I'm more just like, if you said that to like highlights, yeah, if you said that to little baby Jim, that's great. You know, he wouldn't have, you know. And then a cool one recently was King Cruel. Yeah. I love, like, again, like, grew up listening to loads of his records, and then again, like, I was in the pool and he booked in for 2 days, and I was like, this is mad. Love this guy. Just spent 2 days making his record that will be out at some point. I was just assisting. And they needed another day because they didn't get it done, but the producer called me, he was like, I can't make it today, you're going to have to run the show for me if you don't mind. And I was like, dude, yeah, of course, like, I can do that. Fully never had any sort of, obviously on the phone you're just like, yeah, like you said, just say yes to opportunities, you know? And I said yes. And then like, I immediately put the phone down, I was like, what am I doing? I can't just run this session.
You figure all of that later.
Yeah, for sure. And then turned out, tracked the session. It was like my first like big boy pants engineer thing. Run the session, and I was like, I was like just sweating, just like, do you guys like what you're hearing? Is this cool? And they're just like, yeah, man, we aren't like, because they just assume that I've done the job the whole time, and they're like, well, if you think it's fine, it's obviously fine. And I was just like, yeah, all right, man. And then they left. Like, producer was like, send me over the sessions, and I was like, I would really appreciate it if you could credit me as like, and just on the record. And he was like, dude, you'll be an engineer. If we use this stuff, you're gonna straight up be an engineer. We're not gonna like doing half measures or anything. So that was pretty cool. And then another one, like the last one, is there's a guy who works in the Moloko building called Charlie Hugel, and he's like the loveliest guy. And I was just like, this is just a nice guy. This is just a lovely guy that just makes records and has a wicked time. And then we were chatting one time, and then again, one of my favourite records when I was younger, I remember like queuing up in HMV in Newport to buy it, was Lucy Rose's first record. He made that record, and we were just talking about it, and I was just like, Lucy who? You know, just like trying to play it cool sort of thing. And then Swing Deep, another band, he did that record too, and he also did that massive Florence track. No, the massive one. You're the guy. What's that massive Florence track? That's like her first massive one. Oh, that was cool. Massive. The cover. Yeah, that one. Whatever. He did that. Yeah. So so he did that. And
You worked with them? Come on.
yeah. So he did that as well. And I was like, damn, I need to let this guy know that I'm a drummer. I need to like fully let this guy know that I'm a drummer, just like in case he needs someone that can play drums. And then, again, my old pal Henri, we were just in the kitchen making a coffee, and then Henri just made some like weird comment about like, you played much drums recently? And I was like, damn, Charlie's in the room, this is it. I was like, yeah, all the time, I'm sick. And then Charlie was like, oh, you play drums? And I was like, you were listening? You heard that? And he was like, oh, that's like just really good to know. You know, and I was like, yeah, like, because people always just sort of say stuff, people like stuff. And then he was just asking, like, you know, he came out another day and was just asking my drummer. I was like, yeah, I did like some touring stuff. I played on some records, like, for like General Roll and stuff, and I did some tours with like Lauren and Swan, all that stuff. And he was like, oh, well, I might have a track, it might be cool to just get you on. And it was definitely just like a test thing to see if I was just like, you know, just like fully lying. And there was a part of me that thought I was too. I was like, damn, I don't know if I've got the chops anymore. And then we got in the session and like, we did the thing, and I was like, have you got everything you need? He was like, yeah, man, that's great. And I was like, okay, cool. And then left, and like 2 weeks later, he was like, oh, we're releasing that single. We're putting that single out. And I was like, damn. He was like, oh, by the way, there's like a whole album I would like you to play on too. And then he was like, oh, and there's this other artist too. And then he was like, oh, I would love to do a writing session with you one time. And then I was like, dude, this is crazy. This guy made like some of my favorite records. And now we're just like, we played COD a lot together. And I'm like playing COD with this guy, like one-on-one.
Jim, is he in that as well?
Nah, man, he couldn't handle it.
Big Willie.
He left.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, I'm just hanging out with this guy, like playing drums, going to be doing some writing sessions with him. I love listening to his music when I was younger, so.
Which is, again, all these wasn't forcing name dropping, but it is kind of really nice to know that all these artists that people grew up with are inspirational, influential, that one day you can just end up working with in the profession that you love is like literally the ultimate dream. And I think again, obviously everyone's got those examples, but like working with artists is just the norm. You see, media does change the perspective of a lot of the artists. And, you can see someone in the spotlight going, oh wow, that's like, they're really famous and whatever. But if you're in the same room with them, they're just another person. And they actually often need your help to do stuff. Like those artists would never be there unless they had like engineers,
everyone's just there to
managers.
Work. It's just a workspace for everyone. The minute, there's always this weird thing, people you get nervous when you open the door. It's like, yeah, you kind of, the build-up is, but then the minute they come in, they're just like, cool, let's just get to work. And then you're at work, they're at work, and then all the nerves just disappear, because you know, they need your help, and you know, the reason they're here is because of the service you can provide, you know, and everyone's just on the same level.
Yeah. Again, it's amazing to know as well, especially from the record industry where you're making stuff sound incredible. You know, those records are successful because of the people that were working on those records, not just the the artists. I think it's probably a good time to maybe suggest some advice for again people in here that are either wanting to work in the industry one day or have an aspiration to reach the levels of you guys. I'll throw it out to the panel in general. Has anyone got any sort of things that you've learned over time that you think would be worth? Maybe if we put it like, if you're telling your younger self, like I'd probably recommend you do this, or you need to know this. Henri's got something to tell.
Yeah, I'm ready.
He's rude.
I think just say yes to everything. Never get in the door, just say yes to everything, no matter what they ask of you. And I think you just ask people, ask any connections you know. If it's like, I think, I actually started through Maloko through one of my mum's friends, who's a producer, Ben Hillier, who did the first Maccabees record actually, yeah. So it's just through that, so just asking people who know in the industry, and just showing that you're interested in it, and that will really show through. And people recognise that instantly, without a shadow of a doubt. So when James first started Maloko, it was like, everyone knew you were gonna stay there for, and you had the job pretty much in the bag. You just showed your interest.
What, does no one else go for it, or?
I think I would say, I always thought networking's huge, but I always thought networking was talking to people that are doing the job above you, that knocking on doors or emails, and just be like, hey man, I love the stuff you do, can I do it too? And then it obviously just gets ignored, sort of thing, and it's really hard. But then I realised the networking, we've known each other for so long, and this was the network, and the period of doing the BTEC thing, the degree, and we've got more friends that just aren't on this panel that are also doing ridiculously incredible things, and we all talk every day, and we're all still doing things every day.
There'll be the next one.
Cool. Yeah. Great. And we're all in contact all the time, and Henri's helped me out so much, and now I would love to be writing and producing and stuff. That's kind of the goal. So I just do it with Henri, and then I've met people.
I think it's just everyone just be willing to work with. It's the best thing ever when you get to work with your friends. You make so many friends when you start out, especially at the uni, and when you get into the industry, you make so many more friends. You're just working with your friends the whole time.
It's super hard to get your foot in the door, but then once it's in, it's make the people that are at your level, those are the people that in 10 years time, they're going to be up there, and they're going to be, and you've already got their number, That's proper, that's something I learned, because we got a friend, Johnny Breakwell, and he's just killing it, man. The things he's doing right now is ridiculous. He's killing it, but we're because we're all friends, we're just talking all the time. We're let's just do a writing session, let's just hang out, and it's and it's never for any sort of real gain other than just making music with your friends. But that's all we've been doing for the last 15 years, and now we're
somehow making
money from it.
But again, it's fairly modest, I suppose, in saying that, because all of you here worked ridiculously hard. You dedicated a lot of your time to doing stuff, and all of these opportunities you're getting now, it's because you've stayed in contact with each other, you work together, you collaborate, you meet their friends, people meet your friends, and so you're keeping that circle growing all the time.
The bar was high, amongst all of us. It was a weird anomaly where I was a drummer, but there was always someone there with me. I was he's working hard, just work harder. And then when Henri moved off to do his thing, he was that guy's you just got to work as hard as that guy. And everyone's just trying to work, keep up with each other, sort of.
I think that's also a thing as well, is just being a good person. It's actually kind of mad that like you see so many talented people, so like talented producers and talented engineers, talented musicians who just like
Horrible people.
not horrible people, but just like just can't get up. You know, I think that's the biggest thing is just making a relationship with everyone, and a really strong relationship, and that's what's going to get you that next job or the job after that. I think just being, enjoying what you're doing and just holding to relationships. I think that's like the strongest thing I think I've realised. That's what's got me more work, because there's so many people who are better than me, but it's just being like
but it's like you're saying, like just had like. I always found that if you like during like a weird dead period in a conversation, if you could tell like some mad story about how like trashed you got at like a festival, just to like ease the room and make someone laugh or something, like they're just gonna be like, oh man, do you remember that assistant or that engineer that told us that ridiculous story about whatever? And, it's always like worth just sort of just being personable, just put yourself on the same level.
I think you never know. Sorry.
You go.
No, like you just never know who also like, especially for like Henri and James, but like, and four of us, but like you never know who you're going to be in a room with or who you're going to be in front of. So like just always being kind.
The other day, a session booked, and everyone was like, "It's just a session. No one knows who the session's for." And Jacob Colley had turned up.
Yeah.
And we just did like had a full day with Jacob Colley, and like no one knew it was him turning up. But it's always the case. You just never really know who's going to rock.
Well, she knew, she just didn't want to tell anyone.
No, I didn't know. There was all these like,
That's the look, you manage a contract, they don't tell anyone who it is. Every day's a surprise.
I can't remember what I was going to say. I was going to say, it's to like make yourself go out and do things that you don't want to do. I remember, especially when I moved to London, it's like people ask me to play gigs or go out and do things, and I'm like, oh, I can't be bothered. I haven't done anything all day, but I just want to stay in bed. And then it's like, if you go to that gig, you'll then meet another like 5 people, and it will just keep going like on and on and on, and you'll like network with people, and then you'll see that same person that you saw outside of a gig waiting for a ticket, like when you go for a job interview and they walk past you and they'll remember your face, and then that's like another conversation to get started. And it's just like having the confidence to put yourself out there and be like relentlessly emailing people and like rewording your CV, like, oh my god, the thought of doing CV now and a cover letter makes me feel ill. But that was a good moment of doing it like relentlessly and chasing it and being like, just putting it out there to people and chasing people, and like you never, like something will come up, something will happen, like it has to at some point. You just have to put yourself out there, and you'll feel like giving up and there'll be no point, and then it'll be like that week that something comes up and it all happens and it will all spiral out of control and it's all crazy. I mean, I don't know if I'm just talking for myself, but I still like can't believe that I'm doing the job that I'm doing now. I'm very much like, are you sure? Am I allowed to be doing this?
Yeah, it's weird. Like I definitely still get imposter syndrome. Like I think we probably all do. Maybe I don't want to say that, but
Comes
yeah,
with the job, I guess.
it does, and it comes in waves. And I think also like it's not a linear kind of industry at all. Like there's so many changes, and I think it's kind of accepting, like like mirroring what Fifi said. Like especially when you're kind of trying to find something, it's like it can feel so hard. And like you just got to keep kind of pushing through and being like, right, okay, that hasn't worked. Like, how can I do that differently, or how can I approach that? Like, and just kind of, and I think having like, if you can find a little network, like I feel like we're quite lucky that we still in touch. And I remember when Fifi emailed me from her September email address, and I was like, oh, wow, I was like, this is so cool. But like, you just feel really pleased and like for one another, and like just try and. Support each other, like, because it's pretty tough. Like, it's not easy at all, and it can. I think, I remember, I still find it mad. Like you just said, like, it's still in London now, like nearly 7-8 years down the line, and it's kind of like, okay, yes, still here, still.
Yeah, I think you've got like want to do it as well. Like, there's no point. It's like any job, anything is going to sound really like philosophical, but if you're not in it and you don't want to do it and you're not going to like live by it, just pick something else. Go down a different road, because especially it's like the hours that you have to work.
It's a full lifestyle.
Yeah,
it's
it's
an entire
literally,
lifestyle.
yeah.
It's mad, like the hours. Like me and Fifi live together, and we like, I barely see her. We're like, a session, like a Maloko session is minimum a 12-hour day, which is almost definitely a 14 or 15-hour workday for me. And that there's normally like 8 in a row of those. So we just, it's an entire lifestyle.
Yeah, you can, yeah, you're like,
Great though.
I mean, I love it, but
It's great when you're in New York.
Guilty.
I mean, you know, obviously, taken from that, I think you just can't stand still. You know, if anyone gets in a position where you've got something on the table, if you don't take it or make a decision, someone else will come in and take it. Like if Henri gets sent a track and says, you know, can you do some of this, and you go, oh, I don't know about this. It's just like Matt's got someone else straight away. You know.
yeah, I was going to say, there's so many people that want to work in the music industry, and there's so many people like every single level of every part of it, and you just got to like, yeah, when you're in those rooms with people who are having those opportunities, like do something that will make you stand out, hopefully good things, maybe bad things that might work as well, but just like go above and beyond, and somebody asks you to do something and you're like, oh, do you want me to stay for another couple of hours? I know whoever's leaving and I should be going home, but like I'm happy to stick around. Or I heard somebody mention this, do you want me to go and do it? It's just like having the initiative to make yourself stand out, so people are like, I can't possibly imagine like doing that job again without that person in the room or that person helping me.
I mean, again, I think you know, those people that do want to work in the industry, those people in here that do want to work in the industry at some point, you just got to realise if you're not trying to work towards it every day, there's going to be someone else that is working towards it every day. And it's kind of, again, that thing of like, you know, saying you're in the studio, like just working on stuff. You know, you don't know if that's what you want to do, but you're just working on it. So if Henri comes along, who's the man, he hooks everyone up, he's going to be dishing his number out afterwards. He's like, you're ready.
Yeah, like, well, it's like, I remember the interview I had with Maloko, there was like a real sort of basic job interview, and then when you turn up, there's one that's a bit more like, you go into one of the control rooms, the soundproof control rooms, and then you meet who at the time was the chief engineer, and he was like, don't make plans for the next year. Like, he's straight up, he was like, we've got your number and we expect a yes whenever we call, we want a yes. If there's no yes, there's like 100 other people that drop their CV off every week. Like they can just slip right into your, because it was kind of like, it wasn't this bad, but it was kind of like, I'm not even going to bother like learning your name until you've been here 6 months and just like answered the phone and said yes every time. And then like, pretty much I remember going home and Fifi was like, how was it? And I was like, yeah, like, good, I guess, I don't really know. And then I think we went out on a celebratory drinks thing, and then like smashed. And then 7 o'clock in the morning, I got a phone call being like, are you good? Because we need you like in an hour. And I was like, yeah, of course. Like maybe, yeah, straight away. I made my way in, but then that was relentless for the first 4 months. I think I worked like, it was something like you do like 15 days in a row, then you just like happen to get a day off because there's nothing in, then you do another 14 days in a row, then maybe a day off if you're lucky, but then like, still don't make plans because you're just going to get a phone call to like cover something else.
Yeah, amazing. I know we've got to wrap up pretty soon. Has anyone got any questions? Has anyone got anything else? Mr. Dan Ashdown.
Hi, my name's Dan.
Do you want to?
Oh yeah. How's it going? Yeah, my name's Dan. I'm an aspiring producer with this Jesus man here. First of all, I just want to say it's really inspiring to see like your successes coming from P1, especially with James, who taught me when I was in Saturday Rock School as an early teen.
I know.
Hi, how's it going? Yeah, no, it's just really cool to see.
Last time I saw you.
No, I was a lot smaller as well. Yeah, no, my question is, what's, for any of you who want to answer, what's one difficulty, like specific one you remember from your career, and how did you overcome it?
It's the imposter syndrome. For me, it was just like, well, I shouldn't be here. like, so like, you know, thanks Henry for getting me the job, but like, now I'm here, I can't do this, sort of thing. And then it's just entirely, just you throw yourself, it's like fight or flight, and you've kind of got to choose fight every time.
Yeah, I think there's always going to be barriers, like even throughout, you know, I think it's through everyone's career. There's always going to be barriers you're going to face, and it's just you just have to push through them. And it's like you haven't failed until you stop. So just keep on at it. I think that's like the best advice I can give. Yeah.
Awesome, yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone got any other questions about anything at all? Jason's holding the mic, he's ready.
Sort of going off the back of what just Dan said, instead of like what like were there any like catastrophic like errors that you guys made that you want to like share, or like anything that I should probably avoid, or any mistakes of yours that I can learn from?
Going up till 7 AM before a session?
Yeah, don't do that.
Oh, we've all done that.
Yeah, don't do that. I don't think so. I think the worst thing I did is I blew up actually, I can't.
Wrong room, James, wrong room.
I forgot what he said. Don't worry about it. Legit, do not worry about it. I've got to say.
When you were like starting up your own studio, like anything like you want to put out there?
It's alright now, someone else has taken it.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's kind of just. I think it's worth trusting your own ears. It's always like, because it's always cool to like copy someone else's sound or like try and do what someone else is doing just for like practice, because that's like great to just know how to do it. Yeah, it's fine, but like also, no one's got your ears, you know. So like, if you're hearing something the way you hear it and you're like, this is cool, just be like, yeah, this is probably cool. You know, the minute you start sort of, I think, say you've got this like wicked drum sound and you think it's cool, and then you reference it to like, I don't know, whatever your favourite record is, and like, but it doesn't sound like that. So like, just go with your first instinct, because that's like, that'll be your sound, you know?
I think with any error as well, you 100% will learn. Do you know what I mean? There's like, and there's like, you know, I don't think there's never been any big ones, but the smallest thing could be the biggest thing to you, and like it could be nothing to someone else. But I think you will always learn from your mistakes, and I think it's just what makes you a better person, like in any circumstance in the industry. Yeah, I think.
Also, you can't know everything. Like, it's literally impossible, and I have to tell myself nearly daily, I'm like, I'm not a robot. Like, I am human. Like, of course I'm gonna make errors and make the wrong decisions, whatever, but at the end of the day, we're not saving lives, which is what I have to like tell myself a lot, because it feels like it's a lot of pressure, and if you fuck something up, like, that's it, when really in the grand scheme of things it's like, it's nothing. It don't matter. You now know that you're not going to do that again, because you've learned from it, and you can probably also tell your mate who's in the same position, oh, by the way, I did this and I really shouldn't have done that, so like, heads up, don't do it.
And as you say, the industry is so small that you do something, everyone else will know about it. And you'll be like, how did you know about that? They're like, oh, I just spoke to Fifi. And you're like, oh.
I think everyone makes mistakes as well, so everyone's in the same boat.
And you have to own them, like, I think. I think if you admit that you've made a mistake and just be like, oh, you know, I'm sort of like, I do sometimes, like, even now 5 years on, like, I'll miss, like, the piano tune, and I'm like, oh, shit, like, sorry. Oh, you know, but I'm only human, like.
It's cool, I was going for the out-of-tune vibe, that's what
I
I
think
that sounds great on me.
I definitely realised that a lot of like the engineering, like producing game, is just loads of people preaching things that they only just learned yesterday, like they knew it forever. Like being like, oh, did you know this one? We all know. It's like, there was this one guy, there was like this time, I was like, you didn't know there was a pad in the bottom of this mic, like in the barrel. He's like, you didn't know there was a pad in there? And then the next day I was like, dude, there's a pad in the bottom. And then I just realised that like, everyone's just like, getting like schooled every day, and then just schooling someone else on the same thing the next day. It's mad.
Round and round it goes. Yeah. Love it. Any other questions? Go on, Ryan. Hello. I'm Ryan. I'm
from Platform One also. It's in my second year degree. It's good to hear from you guys. What is like an alternate or parallel sort of pathway for your career that you've thought about but haven't like ventured down, sort of that sort of thing? And like for you, Fifi and James, also when you said about just being a drummer, do you still think that's possible? And do you think, Fifi, that you could possibly return to Warner? You know, that sort of thing. And then everyone else.
It's a very good question. When I started the job in management, I'd never done management before, and I thought I wanted to be a tour manager, and I liked what I thought that job was, and then I soon learned that absolutely no, I would never want to be a tour manager. But I think there definitely are aspects of the industry, like I focus with the artists that I work on is like live, so we do a lot of touring, designing for it, like getting all the crew, the gear, like all of that kind of stuff. And I feel like if I wasn't in artist management, I'd probably be in some kind of like, not touring like day to day on the road, but maybe like at an agency or something like that, like dealing with live things. And I think that also goes back to like a Platform One. I used to put gigs on all the time in my grand's pub in Gurnard in the back room. And like at the time I didn't realise what I was doing. I was like, oh well, I want to go to a gig to see all my friends, so if no one else is doing it, I'll do it because I can. And then I think, yeah, I just didn't realise that, yeah, that is actually what I love doing. So yeah, I think I'd probably go into like the live sector somewhere, but not touring, because absolutely not.
I definitely realised, especially I think for myself and Henri, is you're never just doing one job. Like the assisting, the engineering stuff at the pool, that definitely like pays the bills, and I'm learning a lot all the time. But when I'm free, I am drumming and stuff. I'm like making sample packs for people, and you know, I'm drumming. I've played on some stuff for Henri, and I've played stuff for like Charlie Hugel and Johnny, like I said earlier. But then also, if I'm not doing that, I'm writing stuff. I'm still like, you've got to like constantly do something. You know, like I've got like, so at the minute I'm like, not that it's about money, but like I've got a few different there's a few different ways of income for me currently. Like I'm not drumming full time, but like I'm doing it enough to fulfill the creative energy. Like it gives me some sort of creative outlet still, and like that's kind of all I wanted from it, you know. So I get like it's not really a parallel. I'm still kind of doing it, you know, just not as much as I thought I would when I was younger.
I guess I would probably, I mean, I was doing singing for like other bands and stuff alongside work for a long time actually, even after finishing Platform One. So that's probably something that I maybe consider pursuing, but I don't think so now. Like, I don't know, maybe. But I used to sing with Plastic Mermaids quite a lot, and did like quite a few festivals with them and stuff, and played at Scala in London, and that was pretty cool. So I really enjoyed that. So perhaps that's something that I would have or gone down. You know, like it would be quite fun to like play drums. I still have my GW Collector series, which Steve helped me pick many years ago. So it's still I still have that.
It's a buyer, right?
It's in Godshill, yeah. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's parallel. I still kind of similar to you. Like, still kind of enjoy playing. Like, I have a piano like in my electric keyboard, so I still feel like that's a part of me that's important. And like probably all of us, like you don't ever forget like being an actual musician, like creative, because we probably, even myself and Fee, you know, even though we're kind of more, I guess, like admin kind of roles, or whatever you want to call it, like management, that experience still kind of, you carry that into what you're doing, especially if you're working with, like, creatively with artists, and like myself with the studios, you know, you don't ever forget that, you know, people wanting to create a sound, and that knowledge that I have from kind of playing drums and gigging and being in a band and singing with other people, you can always apply that to like whatever role, even though it might not be what you set out to do originally. You can still always like apply it, if that makes any sense. If you get what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. I say agreed. Like being a drummer back in the day, which is what I say all the time, is like, yeah, I've used it so many times, the knowledge of stuff, and even just like picking drummers for a band. It is like, oh, I actually know a bit more than the office assistant in the room of like who's actually a vibe, and also with like crew and stuff like that. And obviously we have like production managers, whatever, that hire gear, but I feel like that was probably one of the main points why I like got my role over somebody else, which they told me after was like, you've literally covered everything that you possibly could. And it's like, even being in the studios, people, even though I don't know what I'm doing, I remember a bit every now and then, but I like know what headspace they're going to be in and what they're going to need in the room, and like to kick someone out that shouldn't be in the room, like you just have a basic understanding of so many different things that then go into like my day-to-day job, and you don't think about it, it just comes out of you. You're like, oh yeah, I remember that one time. Very helpful.
One time back camp. Go for it.
So, in the absence of platform 1, when you were 13, 12, 13, whatever you would say, in the absence of platform 1 when you were 12, 13 at primary school, what would happen to you guys generally if it wasn't that institution you could go to? Where would you be now?
I think even aside from thinking about like a job and a career straight away, like I had an amazing like upbringing on the Isle of Wight with all of my friends all together in the same place, that I can't imagine not, like you say, like we've known each other for so long and been through so much, I can't imagine not having this like friendship group and this like unity between us. And like education wise, I honestly don't know. I think I would have been lost for a very long time not knowing what I wanted to do. I probably would have ended up going to university on the mainland and doing that because I felt like that's what I should do, and that I didn't have the opportunity to like do anything creatively probably, and probably wasted a lot of money and had a lot of debt for nothing to show. And then yeah, God knows, I can't even imagine it, but I would have, yeah, been completely different in every way.
Tennis coach. Yep, that's what I would have done. I was playing a horrendous amount of tennis before I joined Platform 1, did the rock school thing. That was kind of my life until I started drumming and then met these guys. So yeah, if I didn't do the Platform 1 thing, I'd probably just be coaching tennis.
I think I still would have ended up doing music somehow, because I went to music centre, which I don't know, does that still happen now, or did they cut it?
In some ways.
In some format. So Graham Combs, RIP. So when I was on the BTEC, he taught music theory, and I, really feel very lucky that got to be taught by him and at music centre. So I used to go every Saturday. I was in like the jazz band, and then I was in the big band, and I was like, oh wow. So like, I think I tried to do a year of sixth form and I just hated it. So I was like, no. And then we got to do a week of like placement at Platform 1 during like my GCSEs. Like, I need to go there then. Like, it was like, I need to go there. But yeah, I think I would have still done music, but yeah, same as Fifi, like maybe on the mainland, but just very lucky to kind of have it on the doorstep. And like Fifi said earlier, like the Isle of Wight Festival being here is just like so amazing, and growing up with that, like I think very lucky to kind of incorporate it all together. And the festival obviously at that time was still around, sadly it's not now, but it's around in a different format, but yeah.
No, yeah, definitely. I think it's just, I hope you would have still done music. But it's obviously made it a lot easier having it on the Isle of Wight, and platforms that have great facilities and definitely, wouldn't be where I am now, for sure.
I think one of the big things that I always think about is if I went to a different university who had studied music or anything similar, is like the amount of people on each course, which we were so lucky to have like not many people in, like we were across like 3 years, didn't have many people at all, so you actually got the time with people and tutors, especially when it comes to like learning an instrument. I imagine other places you get like 10 minutes and you're like, right, next one in, where you actually, people can like focus on you and you feel more involved in things as well, which I think is really rare. Because I think especially, I don't know, this day and age, I imagine they're just trying to like put bums on seats in different universities and stuff and getting people in, money in from people that don't really care, and you just kind of get lost and you end up like another student in whatever year and kind of disappear into the background. That's how I imagine it. Never did it, but...
Great questions, some great answers, I think. Unfortunately, I'm very sorry, Ryan. We've got to wrap up because these guys have got to close the venue and get it ready for tomorrow morning. I really want to thank everyone for coming out tonight, because obviously this is the first type of event we've done like this, and I really hope we can do another one very soon. In fact, I've seen Mr. Callum Burke over there. Callum, you're going to be at the next one. Yes. This is, I feel like this has been hopefully really inspiring and really informative. And real life, that's kind of, again, the idea is that we just want to put some real life into what it takes to work in the industry, and these guys all have reached a point in their careers where they're really happy and they've gained full-time employment. And they're using their skills, they're using their skill set, and that's really, really important. So let's put our hands together for James, Lottie, Henri, and